If you're hearing this, you've already crossed the line between curiosity and invitation. People think curiosity is harmless, but in these woods, it's the same as bleeding in shark water. It was a cold November night in the Upper Peninsula. The kind of cold that gets inside your teeth when you breathe. My truck idled on a logging road that hadn't seen a human tire in weeks, just the occasional deer or something bigger. The map on my dash was shaking from the engine's rumble, and the radio, an old analog set, kept spitting static like it was choking on a signal too heavy to carry. The smell of ozone was the first thing that told me something was off. Ozone, like burnt electricity, and gun oil from the rifle across my lap. The air was too still. Even the pines seemed to lean inward, as if trying to hear something buried deep under the snow. I remember thinking how alive the silence felt, how every nerve in my body seemed to twitch at once. I'd come out here chasing a signal, a distress beacon that had pinged on military frequency, then vanished. I wasn't active duty anymore, not since they shut down the reconnaissance program, but I still had the gear, still had the habit of answering when something screamed from the dark. I turned the radio dial. The static changed pitch, a low, vibrating hum that rattled the mirrors. For a second, I swore I could hear words hiding beneath it, like a whisper caught between frequencies. Then everything went dead. That was when the forest exhaled. The wind came back, rolling through the branches in long hollow waves. A thin layer of frost glittered on the hood of the truck, and for a heartbeat, I thought I saw the trees shifting, not moving with the wind, but moving against it. My hand went for the flashlight, but before I could switch it on, something cracked in the distance. Not a branch. Not ice. Something heavy snapping bone. I stepped out into the cold. The door shut behind me with a metallic thud that sounded too final. Breath fogged the air in short bursts. The forest floor was frozen mud and pine needles, and the smell of rot drifted faintly, like a carcass left just out of sight. I swept the flashlight around, snowflakes catching the beam, drifting lazily through the pale light. The beam landed on claw marks. Deep ones. 4 grooves carved into a birch tree at shoulder height. Too high for a wolf. Too clean for a bear. I ran a gloved hand across them and felt splinters where the bark had been torn away in one motion. My phone had no signal. The compass needle on my vest started to jitter, twitching back and forth like it couldn't find north. Then I heard it, a distant rhythmic click, like metal tapping against metal. It echoed through the trees in perfect intervals, deliberate, like code. Something out there was listening too. I followed the sound for maybe 200 yards until I came to a clearing. The moon hung low, swollen and white behind a veil of cloud. In the snow sat a deer carcass, torn open from neck to flank. Steam still rose from it, mixing with the mist. But it wasn't the deer that froze me in place, it was the footprints circling it. 2 sets. 1 animal, 1 human. The animal tracks were massive, claws digging deep like it had weight to throw. The human prints ended halfway around the carcass, as if the person had vanished mid-step. No drag marks. No blood trail. Just gone. A gust of wind whipped through the clearing, carrying a smell I'll never forget, wet iron and something ancient. I raised the rifle, slow, deliberate, and scanned the tree-line. Nothing but branches. Then the static came back through the earpiece. Only this time, it wasn't static. It was breathing. Slow, ragged breathing. "Who's there?" I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. No answer. Just the crunch of snow behind me. I spun around, flashlight slicing through the dark. The beam caught a shape between the trees, a flash of pale skin, then eyeshine. Amber, wide-set, reflecting light like an animal, but higher than any animal should be. It swayed slightly, then dropped to all fours and disappeared into the brush so fast the world seemed to lag behind it. I backed toward the truck, rifle raised, every instinct screaming to move faster. Something brushed the back of my coat, a low branch maybe, but when I turned, the air carried that same humming sound I'd heard through the radio. This time it was coming from the forest itself. Back in the cab, I locked the doors and killed the engine. The headlights stayed on, throwing white light into the mist. The forest looked like a frozen sea, everything moving in slow waves. I tried the radio again, got nothing but a single tone, high and constant. My reflection in the glass looked like a ghost waiting for bad news. That's when the light dimmed. Not flickered, dimmed, like something massive had passed in front of the truck. The temperature dropped instantly. My breath turned to crystals, hanging in front of me. I turned the headlights brighter. That's when I saw it. At first, it looked like a tree trunk moving. Then it straightened. It was tall, 7, maybe 8 feet, and wrong. Its shoulders were too broad, its neck too short. The face wasn't human, but it wasn't fully animal either. Its jaw hung slightly open, revealing teeth that caught the light like shards of glass. The skin was gray, stretched tight over bone. Steam rolled off it in the cold, but there was no sound except for the faint creak of joints as it stepped closer. It didn't move like it was walking, it glided, each step too smooth. My hand went for the ignition, but my body wouldn't listen. The rifle lay across my lap, useless. I could only watch as it came to the edge of the light, head tilted slightly as if trying to understand what it was seeing. Then the howl tore through the night. It wasn't the creature in front of me. It came from somewhere deeper in the woods, low, guttural, and powerful enough to rattle the glass. The thing stopped, snapped its head toward the sound, and for the briefest moment, I saw fear flicker across its face. Then it vanished into the dark, swallowed by the trees in 3 silent strides. The echo of that howl rolled through the valley, bouncing off the ridges like thunder. The radio came alive with fragments of voices, panicked shouts, gunfire, the word multiple repeated over and over. Then static again. I sat there shaking, headlights burning through empty snow. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard it hurt. Whatever was out there, it wasn't alone. The night wasn't just hunting, it was gathering. I looked down and realized my hands were bleeding, skin split from how tightly I'd been gripping the rifle. The smell of ozone thickened, and another shape crossed the far end of the light, massive, hunched, dragging something behind it. The ranger called me just after midnight. His voice cracked through the static like dry twigs breaking underfoot. "You still up north?" he asked. "We've got something bad at Camp Iron Lake." I didn't ask what kind of bad. The tone said enough. I threw my rifle in the passenger seat, turned the key, and the truck's headlights cut through the frozen dark like twin knives. The road twisted through the trees, every shadow alive with motion. The forest was awake. When I reached the ranger post, 3 of them were waiting: Hollis, Boyd, and a younger guy named Reed. Their faces were pale, eyes wide in the light of a kerosene lamp. The smell of coffee mixed with wet fur. Hollis was the senior, his badge was scratched to the metal. He didn't waste words. "Something's tearing up livestock near the lake. Locals are saying wolves, but," he trailed off, rubbing his jaw. "Wolves don't stack carcasses." Reed laughed nervously. "They what?" "Stacked," Hollis said again. "Like a warning." We loaded up the sleds, flares, flashlights, a motion trigger kit, and enough ammunition to make a small war. Boyd carried the thermal scope, the only one that still worked in this kind of cold. The drive to Iron Lake took 20 minutes, maybe less. Time moves strange when fear's already ahead of you. The first carcass lay by the tree line, a deer, throat gone, belly torn open clean to the spine. What stopped me wasn't the kill, but the way its front legs were folded neatly under its chest, like it had been placed there with care. The snow around it hadn't melted. That meant the body wasn't radiating heat anymore. It had been here for hours, maybe all night. Boyd scanned the tree line with the scope. "Got movement," he whispered. "Fast." "Bear?" Hollis asked. He shook his head. "Too low. Too controlled." The word controlled stuck with me. I pulled my rifle to ready position, safety off. My breath hung in white plumes as we followed the tracks down toward the frozen edge of the lake. The moonlight painted the ice in silver, and the woods beyond looked endless. Something moved in the reflection. Reed saw it first. "There, left side," he shouted, swinging his flashlight. For half a heartbeat, the beam caught it, a tall, angular figure between the trees, then gone. The snow crunched, once, then silence again. We fanned out, setting motion sensors around the clearing. Each one blinked red when armed. The sound was too loud in the cold. My pulse felt heavier than the wind. Hollis knelt beside the deer, examining the cuts.
Clean. No teeth marks.
This was done with something sharp. He turned a strip of flesh over in his gloved hand.
Too clean for claws.
Maybe a blade?
I asked. He didn't answer.
Instead, he looked up at the trees, his face drained of color. My granddad used to tell stories about things in the winter woods, he murmured. Said when a man eats another man's flesh, he turns into something that can't stop hungering. Wendigo, he called it. Reed snorted, trying too hard to sound brave. You believe that? Hollis's voice was steady. I believe something's out here, and it ain't afraid of us. The sensors blinked green, system armed. I started recording with my body cam, mostly out of habit. You learn to document everything in the field. It's the only way someone might believe you later. The first alarm tripped at 1:47. A sharp beep echoed through the clearing. Reed froze mid-step. South perimeter, Boyd hissed. Something big.
All flashlights swung south.
The beams collided on empty trees, then a shadow moved between them, fast and smooth like smoke caught in wind. The branches didn't even sway.
Another alarm. West perimeter. Then north.
Then all of them at once. They're circling us, Boyd said.
Hold fire, Hollis ordered.
We don't know what we're shooting at. That's when the forest erupted. A roar shook the ground, low and guttural, not quite human, not quite animal. The trees seemed to bow with it. The first figure broke from the dark, humanoid, tall as a doorframe, its limbs stretched long and thin, running on two legs. Its skin glistened pale gray under the lights, muscles moving like coiled cables beneath. Before we could react, another shape burst from behind it, quadrupedal, heavier, furred, its eyes burning amber like coals. The two collided, crashing into the snow in a blur of claws and bone.
Screams, not human, echoed across the ice.
Light it up.
Hollis shouted.
Gunfire tore through the night, muzzle flashes strobing the trees. The smell of cordite mixed with the stink of rot. My bullet struck home, but the creatures didn't drop. The bipedal one twisted unnaturally, lunging backward like liquid shadow, vanishing into the treeline. The four-legged one slammed into Boyd, sending him sprawling. I fired twice, heard a yelp, saw blood spray in the beam, black, thick, steaming in the cold.
Reed screamed. It's got him. It's got.
The words ended in a crunch. Not a scream this time, just the sound of something giving way, bone and sinew cracking like firewood.
We ran. Training kicked in.
Hollis and I covered the retreat while Boyd dragged Reed's flashlight, still on, flickering through the snow. The woods swallowed everything, the sound, the direction, even the air felt thinner. We reached the ridge above the camp, lungs burning, ears ringing. I counted heads. Boyd was crying, shaking. Hollis was pale, blood splattered on his coat.
Reed was gone.
His voice still echoed faintly in my head, but not his body. What the hell was that?
Boyd rasped.
Not Wendigo, Hollis said softly. Wendigo doesn't bleed black. I scanned the ground with my flashlight, searching for tracks. The snow told the story better than words. Clawed prints leading one way, boot prints leading another, and then both ended, just stopped in the middle of the clearing. The snow there was melted into a small crater, and something metallic glinted at the center. I knelt down. It was a dog tag. Torn clean through, edges frayed, like it had been ripped from someone's neck. I brushed the frost away with my thumb and read the engraving under the dirt. U.S. Bioweapons Division, Project Nightfall. I froze. My stomach dropped like a stone. I'd heard whispers about that program back when I wore the uniform. Genetic recon units, crossbred tissue trials, containment breaches swept under classified reports. They'd said it was cancelled after '08. They'd said it never worked. Behind me, Hollis whispered, "What is it?" I didn't answer. My hand was shaking, and the tag felt heavy, like it belonged to the kind of nightmare you can't wake from. The radio crackled once, sharp and broken, then a voice, "If anyone's still alive, stay away from the lake. Do not." Static drowned the rest.